Well. Welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Friday. It's Friday. Hey, have a nice Friday in your life. Just got back to the old battle station here after a decent night of sleeping, and I'm still actually feeling rather wrecked, but it's okay because I got just enough energy to do a nice little video for today. And I want to follow up on yesterday's short-term time frame analysis, and then also follow up on the ongoing thread that we've been having for the past 3 weeks with first a major bounce from 35. First target was 41, then 45, then pull back down to the low 40s. That's kind of where we're at right now. And what does this kind of align with, well, in the next couple weeks to come? So with that in mind, I am going to actually not start off on the Krown trading application here today. We'll swing back to that a little bit later when it is relevant to the analysis. But what I do want to let you know is that the premium features are now live. You can hit the Learn More tab over here. It'll tell you exactly what to expect with them. And I'll very likely make a video over this weekend to follow up on that. Anyways, so yes, let's start off with what I'm going to call the chart of the day. That is going to be the Tether dominance chart. Now, the Tether dominance chart is actually just this cyan line chart that you see right here. The reason why I focus on it, the reason why I bring it up is because theoretically it should play opposite of Bitcoin as far as major trends go, meaning that when Tether dominance goes up, meaning that money is flowing from, well, Bitcoin into Tether, then we expect, or the sort of implication is that people are flying to I guess a safety, if you will, something that's stable rather than something that's rather volatile and probably downside angled, and vice versa for the upside. When Bitcoin is trending rather rapidly and monstrous to the upside, we expect Tether dominance to be trending to the downside. So in this case right here, this is kind of irrelevant without measuring it against Bitcoin, and I do want to point out a couple of points, or just one point of contingency here. So first and foremost, obviously make the decision for yourself. Of course, we do see that, generally speaking, when Bitcoin up, Tether dominance down. When Tether dominance up, Bitcoin down. There is one segment here where that is not true. That would be between about March 2020, the flu dump, to October, September of 2020 as well. They both kind of, were generally moving up together, to be fair. So that was not a full relationship, but I suspect that is, I suspect that there's a few nuances to that, namely just the fact that when Bitcoin did break its prior all-time, the $20,000 region, we did see that relationship once again resume. So anyways, with that in mind, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we can now go back down to the Tether dominance chart. Right here, I want to throw back on my tools as well. Okay, there we go. And you can see that the Tether dominance chart is actually setting in, another higher low. Now, we did call a pullback on this one above the 5.25% region about a couple of weeks ago, or I guess it was like 3 weeks ago now. Jeez, man, time is like truly flying. This is insane. Which did coincide with that Bitcoin rally off of $35,000 to about $45,000, which is a pretty big move. However, right now we are seeing it starting to finally catch its lows, and I'm looking for this one to give another try to the upside. To be fair, however, I am actually not looking for this chart to make new highs or continue with the trending run to the upside, but I am looking for next move to the upside, alongside another deduction in the global open interest representing leverage positions right here. So you can see that we have hit, I would not say an extreme, but we have hit a high here at about the $12.36 billion marker. And because we are seeing these kind of come down simultaneously, I would suggest that when we see the open interest start to bottom out is not the right term, but essentially reset a little bit more, that's when I would expect Tether dominance to be once again somewhere around the highs. Let's call it like 470-ish region, 475 perhaps, at most. And then I'd be looking for another turn down from there. And that again plays into the open interest chart over here, because open interest representing leverage positions does suggest that we don't really have the liquidity for a major downside washout event, at least in my opinion. So what I'm trying to say is, while I do think that Bitcoin likely has some more medium-term time frame downside right here, not to be confused with the short-term time frames. In fact, we're actually going to be speaking about a very likely bounce, basically off the same level that we spoke about yesterday. I don't think that Bitcoin's going to make like new lows from its current region, to be 100% directly clear, hopefully as clear as possible. I do think that Bitcoin's downside is probably, limited somewhere around about $35,000, and then very likely another bounce around there. And then that bounce is going to be the telling one as to whether Bitcoin's, macro bullish or macro bearish. If it starts to actually, close back above about $45,000, that would be obviously good. If it closes, if it puts in another lower high anywhere below about $41,000, very bad for the Bulas right there. But as always, I really want to differentiate myself from both the Moon Boys and the Doom Boys right now, I think they're equally as equally as insufferable, to be honest with you. I see it on every $1,000 move up. Bitcoin's going to 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, a million, kajillion, and every $1,000 move down, Bitcoin's going to $15,000. Just okay, fair enough. I understand the game, right? It's all about clickbait on YouTube, of which I employ a little bit myself. Apologies on that, but well, fair enough, man. It is the YouTube game, I suppose. But ultimately, I want to mediate it with having actual, dialed back content, contingent upon validation and invalidation points. Not to me that I'm always going to be right, but it's not that I take pride, but what I want this analysis to really be hinged upon is that those invalidations and validations are correct. Anyways, in this case, I do want to now go into the funny rates right here. We actually do see that they're starting to print negative again for the first time in about a week. Yeah, a little bit over a week, about 10 days now. And with Bitcoin really even just coming back down to the medium-term time frame range lows. And again, I do think that we go a little bit lower from here after a short-term bounce, but this is going to play into the short-term bounce idea. On the hourly, we do see that is negative 0.006%. So shorts are paying to hold their positions. And for right now, Bitcoin's coming off the same area that we spoke about yesterday, right? That same area, actually, I think it was better seen over here, was the 618 Fibonacci retracement from the high to the low of this current run. A very likely just sort of profit taking region for the people who are shorting that, that local high right there, and very likely to give a little bit of a bounce if you want to go off of moving averages. We do see that the 4-hour 200 simple is right around this region as well. And I believe we're seeing all lower term time frame stochastic momentum really get kind of extreme here. So 4-hour stochastic momentum, as you can see, is going to turn up with any sort of a closure. And when are we closing next? 3 hours, 29 minutes, and 35 seconds, which is an eternity, basically in cryptocurrency land. And that will turn up above 40,531. Bitcoin currently trading about $200 above there as of the current moment. 3-hour is going to be already turning up and remaining with upside momentum as long as Bitcoin's above 40,250. Bi-hourly is also loading. It's also going to turn up above 40,550, and hourly is actually vertical above about 40,400. Keep in mind though, you will notice that HVP on this time frame, especially the lower term time frame, is actually coming down from extremes right there. So this is a corrective move. First and foremost, here's a 2-hour way up there. 3-hour, I imagine, is decently up there as well, and 4-hour perhaps not as much, but all of them going into a bit of a contraction phase with momentum pointed up. I just look at that as a correction, a short-term correction in this case. So how high can Bitcoin get before coming into a little bit of trouble? Mid 41,500-ish region is completely fine. I think best it does the upside is going to be something like this. Let's actually take one of these. I guess it'd be somewhere between about 43 to 43,700 or so. Here's the thing though, and what I want to once again reiterate my stance on, whilst Bitcoin was showing some signs earlier in the past week and a half, the major signal for continuation, meaning a 4-hour closure above $45,000, was never met. So this is why validations are very, 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 very important. They, at least in my, I can only speak for myself, obviously, but keeps me safe from, getting a little bit exuberant in these cases right here. At the end of the day, there were closes around there, but no closes above. So that condition was never validated. Therefore, no continuation was implied. However, if Bitcoin does close a 4-hour above there, above $45,000, the same sort of stance I would have on this one, with the target up somewhere around $48,000 to $50,000 and potentially more over time. Until then, however, the medium and higher term timeframes are showing a bit of a different picture than the short term timeframes, which do suggest a bouncy bounce here. So going back to the daily, and I believe we identified this yesterday on that emergency video, baby. We did see one drive of bearish divergence being ticked off right there. Keep in mind, this is coming in the shallow end of the bullish control zone, so I don't look at it as like a death sense. The buy daily is also having a couple drives of hidden bearish divergence right there. Also not looking too hot, but short-term bouncy. Bitcoin probably comes up into the mid 41s, maybe even tags 43 if over the weekend if we get a nice move. But ultimately, I am looking for Bitcoin to come back down and trade a little bit lower. However, and again, here's where I really want to differentiate this content. As I search for a fresh chart, I guess can we use this one? Yeah, that's not going to work right there. The old cock and balls. Yeah, when everyone's looking at the same thing, usually doesn't work. And of course, when we are talking about technical formations, confirmation is needed above the neckline, of which that was never had. Again, $45,000. Okay, so in this case, where would those next targeted regions be? Well, in this case, let's actually take, well, we can take a bullish retracement on this. I suppose this would be the hopium of this, somewhere around the 618, maybe a little bit lower than that. Again, due to the not critical reads that we see on global open interest, I don't think that we're going to see a major washout event to the downside. For reference, anytime that we've seen this get, above 13.5 billion, more like closer to 14 billion, and then obviously higher is typically a more severe response. But when those reads are met, we typically do see, or it's not typically, we have always seen actually, a 20% reduction in price or more, depending upon the severity of the open interest driven by that essentially. So in this case, I do think that Bitcoin, worst case scenario is probably like back down to mid 30s or something, and then tries for another bounce there. If I were to do the old LARP lines, short term, maybe bounce like that, boom, and then boom, something like that. And then the real question is, I actually did a little bit too far right there. So let's say boom, boom. And then the real question after that is what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin does confirm a local low here, that would theoretically be a higher low on the higher term timeframes. If we go to a daily right here, I think it's going to be a better or easier to be seen. There we go. That's the right terminology. And then the key critical assumption, or the key critical thing, is still going to be getting back above about 44,500 on a daily or 45,000 on a 4 hour. If that happens, still looking for the same move, big ups to 50,000 plus. Over time, of course. And if Bitcoin does put in a lower high somewhere, basically anywhere below about 42.5 to 43,000 bucks, then I'd be looking for that's at the point where I'd probably be looking for the big bad move to the downside. I do think max down for Bitcoin is probably like 25,000 bucks overall. I'm not necessarily of that opinion just yet. I'm just looking for a very, very short-term bounce, medium-term, another try to the downside, and then a bounce out of there. And that's when I'm going to start to make my decision about the macro. Until then, keep in mind, and this is a bit of a sombering detail here, but Bitcoin did not really print a higher high on that run. I guess you had an ever so slight closure above here, but ultimately that closure was not combined with a higher low. So no reversal can be had without both of those conditions marked off. So in this case, I still think that we're looking at same shit that we've been looking at for a year now, which is generally a sideways market between $30,000 and $60,000, which is rather annoying for the Moon Boys and the Doom Boys. Anyways, going into the medium and higher term timeframes, 12-hour stochastic momentum is back down below the bearish control zone, remains with downside momentum as long as Bitcoin's below 43,300. Daily, also rather concerning alongside that drive of bearish divergence on the daily over here on the RSI, and the 2-day hidden bearish divergence that we identified over here. Is going to have downside momentum as long as below 43,500 or 43,600. By daily, I imagine it's freshly crossing down below 45, and that is not a great signal right there. And then the other higher term time frames actually still to the upside. So that's why I'm kind of juxtaposing this and trying to be as nuanced as possible with the very, very short term time frames versus the medium term time frames versus the high and the macro time frames. So in this case, what does that likely align with? Again, very, very short-term time frame bounce, probably comes down, maybe over the weekend or early next week. And then the real question is what happens after the potential higher low right here or the lower high right here. That's really what I'm waiting for. To cover this up once again, however, and really the next big signal that I'm looking for is the daily BBWP. I do not look at BBWP in combination with momentum oscillators until we see the BBWP above the moving average on it, and preferably with the moving average also trending up as well, with an upside slope. When I see that plus a fresh momentum oscillator signal, whether it be the RSI, stochastic momentum, or the Joule over here, of which I'm going to add the regular Joule back up pretty damn soon, although the Joule does get the job done for the most part. Those are the signals that I really look for like a major momentous drive. In this case right here, I still look at this as an overall corrective signal at best for the current moment in time. The worst case scenario for the Boo laws favoring the barrows in this case would be if we did something like this, where you saw Bitcoin come down, right? And BBWP stays down. And then after Bitcoin bounces and then puts in a lower high, you see BBWP trade above the moving average on it, like that. Okay, probably would be better to have different colors there, obviously, but you get what I'm saying. The BBWP goes up, moving average switches alongside of it, and then we get, another drive of bearish divergence or hidden bearish divergence, or just, a continuation of this current, of this current trend. If we get something like that, that'll be incredibly bearish. For the Boo laws, I still want to see the same thing over here, but I want to see something resembling like hidden bullish divergence or regular bullish divergence plus, stochastic momentum turning up on a, at least a 12-hour, preferably the daily. In this case, we are still corrective right now. So hopefully I got everything out as well as possible in this video. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything over here. Okay, we got that. We got that. Maybe go into the market data tab. I'm curious to see if we have anything of particular interest right here. Leverage ratio is still high as all hell, but hasn't really been too helpful, to be honest with you. Did I talk about invalidation? I believe I did. So again, invalidation on, well, I guess it's not necessarily invalidation, to be validation of major upside continuation with, targets up towards $48,000 to $50,000 and probably more over time as well. Still with a 4-hour closure minimum above 45 or daily above 44.5 or so, I believe it was. Until we get one of those two things, I do think that general medium-term pressure remains to the downside, but I'm not calling like a major meltdown here. I think somewhere around, mid $30,000 territory, give or take a little bit from that number. Okay, cool. Hopefully that was helpful. I'm gonna be signing off now. Take care and see you hopefully soon.